Well, Christopher Gibbs is an American farmer speaking out against or about the trade policies of Mr. Trump. He's a former chairperson of the local Republican Party who voted for President Donald Trump. He joins us from Maplewood, Ohio via Skype. Good to have you with us, sir. So you voted for Donald Trump, but has he lived up to your expectations?
Well, certainly not. And I've told other outlets, and thank you for having me. I've told other outlets that I got off the Trump train in Helsinki when he threw the intelligence service overboard, the people in the intelligence community, and certainly that was enough for me. Somewhere along the line, you have to he pulls on your moorings so hard that you just have to say enough is enough. But in the farming business, which I'm immersed in, we've just been hurt terribly with these tariffs. And Mr. Navarro, I think he's probably living in some alternate reality that we haven't been hurt. We've lost our largest export customer for soybeans, and we've also lost confidence of other trading partners around the world. And we worked decades on these markets. These markets were not. They weren't Mr. Trump's markets. They weren't Peter Navarro's markets. They were our markets. We built these with our own hands. We built these with our own dollars. We shook hands. We made trade deals. We made commitments. And to have all that pretty much go up in smoke in the last year, just pretty doggone hard to swallow.
Absolutely. Of course, Donald Trump has promised billions of dollars in bailout money, both last year and again this year. Do those subsidies offset the losses that you're seeing?
Well, they may offset on a year-by-year basis, and I'll divide this maybe into two different discussions. Sure, that they took care of us last year a little bit. Maybe they're going to take care of us this year again, but none of those monies I don't believe have been paid out. I haven't been able to sign up yet for myself. And then they hedged on how much was going to be paid this year, maybe half, maybe all of it, what have you. But I'll tell you something. Farmers don't think in one-year increments. We don't think in 280-character tweets. We have to think long-term. Our farms, 95% of the farms in the United States are family-owned. And these are built to be passed down through the generations. We build these for a lifetime and for multiple generations. So when I think about my son, my daughter, my new grandson, 7 months old. This is going to be his farm. And what's it going to be if I don't have trading relationships built around the world that we've worked, again, for decades to foster and to put together? And I'll tell you why that's important. 95% of the people on the planet live outside of the United States. So marketing, trade, is our marketing plan. That's our business plan in agriculture. That's what we do. And for the president to use his populist message, and for me, populism is nothing more than a perennial search to find a villain to slay. And he's tried to slay the villain of Mexico, Canada, Japan, the EU, China as well. All of those just became villains, and those were our trading partners, for heaven's sakes. Those were the people that we were selling product to and bringing dollars back into the United States, into rural communities, by the bushel, by the truckload. We were bringing dollars back, and particularly from China.
President Trump has steadily increased tariffs on Chinese goods. More tariffs set to come into play in September, although he's delayed some of those until December, just before Christmas. Does that give you or anyone hope that a deal will be done soon, or does that create more uncertainty, just pushing it further down the line?
Well, uncertainties, uncertainties is the difficulty with markets. And you talk to any CEO of any big company, and you talk to farmers as well. They're not going to make any large purchases, any capital purchases, until we could get trade more consistent and get it out of the Twitter sphere and onto the page. So, listen, for China, and let me go back to the 10% in the December and pushing it back. The president finally admitted, after months and months of saying that consumers weren't going to be hurt by these tariffs, when he pushed those back, saying that he wanted to make sure we got through the Christmas season, oh my heavens, he finally admitted that those tariffs could hurt, and they do hurt American consumers. Now, there's a bigger picture here. All those other countries I mentioned, Mexico, Canada, Japan, etc., the EU, those are trade issues. But the president has not been forthright with the American people on China about what this is really about. This is much less about trade, and it's much more about containment. And this is about the president believing, because of his advisors, it's Peter Navarro inside the White House, it's Mike Pillsbury outside the White House, it's Steve Bannon maybe wherever he went. Those three people convinced the president that he could contain China and he could do it for generations. Well, that's folly. You're not going to do that to a 3,000-year-old society by just bludgeoning them with tariffs. That's just not going to work. So there's much more going on here, and he hasn't leveled with American farmers. He told American farmers that trade wars were easy to win, and pretty much said, well, we'd be in and out in 6 months. That's not going to happen. China's not going to let it happen.
Clearly underestimating it. Just very quickly, yes or no, will you vote for Donald Trump in 2020?
No, and I've made that commitment that I was not going to.
Right.
But I want to be very clear about this. I don't expect this to be a binary choice.
All right, Christopher Gibbs, we've got to leave it there, but fantastic to get your perspective. Thank you so much for your time.
Take care.